Good evening.
Hello.
How you doing?
You good? How are you?
Good. Ready for the snow?
I guess as ready as we're gonna be. It sucks because tomorrow I have to work in Quakertown, then I got to drive home in that, so I'm not looking forward to that.
Well, hopefully you can get out ahead of it.
Yeah. Well, it's starting there first and then working its way up to us, so it's like,
Oh boy.
mm-hmm. What? Oh, I know, we're getting killed.
It says 18 to 24, 60%.
Oh, I know. It's
It's like from 10 to 24.
yeah, starting Wednesday afternoon.
So are you gonna help me shovel?
We have a snowblower.
You have a snowblower?
Yeah, Pop gave us one.
Oh, and I don't think it's gonna move 10. It can move like 3.
I hope so.
Hello.
Hey, George.
My shoes are coming.
Mm-hmm.
Because he sent me the thing that they were like verified.
Okay. I said, okay, they're slow StockX. They're even slow when people ship shoes to them to verify them. Yeah.
And he ordered them like 2 weeks ago. Or I don't know how, maybe a week ago.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Dr. Baituli. How are you?
Great yourself.
Good, thank you.
Everybody getting ready for the big storm.
I guess, right?
I was talking to someone this morning. I never quite seen a forecast from the that was so narrow, 20 to 24 inches. I saw this morning with the national weather.
Really, I saw 18 to 24, but
That's still pretty tight, right? I mean,
yeah,
they're not messing around.
no, I know, it's crazy. And we got absolutely nothing last year really at all,
That's correct.
but I don't expect anything less for 2020.
Of course not. It's got to go out with a bang. Hi, Melissa. Larry.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Tired.
What'd you say? Oh, it's finance. Every month. Gotta spend the money wisely, Evan. Not that simple, I wish. What class? How'd you do? How do you think you did? Okay.
I definitely think 100. It's really, it tested us 2 questions. And it was like, one of the questions was like, explain how, like, big business, I would back on like the 1800s or something like that. And big business is like when a company, like, basically has like a monopoly, they like own everything in that business.
Mm-hmm.
So like they limit all the competition.
Which is illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal now, but it wasn't then.
True.
And basically, I was talking about how they would do it and like how it affected everyone that was.
That's why there's laws now for mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah. And now, and then the second question was
I like that.
British influence over the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said how we won Hawaii. Well, we didn't. And then how we bought Alaska
Mm-hmm.
from Russia, and how it was really like one of the biggest money lands, I guess you said,
Mm-hmm.
of all time. And everyone thought it was just oil land.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
Christmas, Billy.
Alaska. Some middle of nowhere, bunch of wood.
Now it's got oil and it's got.
Yeah, well, now it has oil and gold and stuff. We didn't know that then.
Nope.
We had lumber.
You got your sleigh out too?
Sure do.
Yeah, you're gonna need it, right?
Not to record too much.
Little humor. Roll the reindeer. Little brevity.
Can I give you my Christmas list?
Sure.
No, you're on the naughty list there, Larry. You don't get one.
Ah, well,
Yes, Evan.
I guess I should have known that.
Maybe, I don't know. Do we have everybody present? Let's see, we have all of our board members, so we are good to go.
Okay.
So it is 5:30, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. If we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For
for
which
which it stands, one nation,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
and justice for all.
Okay. Can we do a roll call, please, Patricia?
Okay, Rebecca Bear,
Present.
George Andrews,
Present.
Larry Diamond,
Present.
Rich Schlamus. Yeah,
Present.
4 present.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for December 15th, 2020, with the members of the committee reserving the right to add to the agenda and take further action in the best interest of the district?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Grab a pen. Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes of November 9th, 2020.
So moved.
Motion.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, George. Perfect. So our items up for discussion tonight, we're first going to hear from Brian Borash in regards to antivirus section.
Good evening. Up for discussion here is antivirus, and we've had some solutions here in the past. We had a Microsoft solution that covered all our Windows machines and our Macs. At one point in time, Microsoft decided to stop the Mac version, so now we had to buy a different version for Mac, which is really a little lacking. So we want one antivirus that'll cover all our Windows and Mac machines. We did have 2 machines that got infected. One was with the Windows AV and the other one was with Macs, which is what the runs in the Mac. So we sought out other antivirus solutions. We looked over several of them. We decided to go with the FortiEDR solution. We did put out for bid. We did have 4 quotes that you have in the backup. We did ask for 3 options, a 1-year, a 3-year, and a 5-year. This is fully funded with federal grant funds, and I believe the 5-year option is the most cost effective.
Are they all 5-year, Brian?
Could you repeat that, George?
Are they all 5-year? The quotes? There's so much. You get Integral 1 at 104, and then you got E Plus at 344. So, are we talking apples to apples, or is one?
Brian, we can't hear you.
Yeah, George, it's all the same product. It's the FortiEDR. We did have 4 companies that did submit pricing. Integra One and SHI were relatively close. The other 2 were way out there.
No, it's like somebody missed something, or was adding something. That's why I was asking you.
Yeah, that was a little concerning, to say the least.
So we have antivirus protection currently and it failed. Is that why we're looking for more?
I wouldn't. No, it's not necessarily that it failed, but we don't believe as a department that they're the best solution out there, and that will do the best job protecting the devices that the district has invested in. The one that we have, the Microsoft one, comes with it's part of System Center. Something did come through, and we caught it with another system, not necessarily antivirus, but we were able to isolate that. And the other one, ClamX, which protects our Macs, we had something come through, and it didn't catch it. So my professional opinion is, if you have 2 separate antivirus programs, and they do not catch a virus, there's a problem there, and that's concerning in of itself.
So were we able to get a refund from the previous company that let information go through that caused the breach?
Well,
Are they liable?
there was no breach. The machine got infected, and we were alerted to it through another system, and it was isolated immediately. But it shouldn't have got to that point where the antivirus should have caught it immediately and isolated it on the machine. So the antivirus we have for our Mac solution that expires February 1st.
Okay.
The other one is part of we have a Microsoft agreement with IU 13. We're in our third 5-year, I think it's a 5-year term now. That comes as part of that agreement so that we get that. So relative, whether we use that or not, we pay for it.
And we have to pay for it.
Yeah, it's part of the bundle. It comes as a bundle. So included with that, like our Windows licensing for the machines, the licensing for Office, Microsoft System Center, our servers, etc.
Okay. So on the
Okay.
Windows is where we got the virus.
We one Windows machine and one Mac machine.
Okay.
But
And we
just
we
saying,
let the IU know.
Excuse me.
it doesn't make any difference whether we get rid of it or not, because it's part of the bundle. We're not paying for it, it's part of the bundle, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the Mac one we are paying for.
The Mac one we are paying for, and that expires at the beginning of February. So we
Okay.
would simply not renew that.
Okay.
And to add to this, we've bought a Fortinet. So this is part of Fortinet, the FortiEDR. We
Mhm.
bought, if you recall, we bought the Fortinet firewall. We bought the FortiCM.
Mhm.
And so this component would integrate with those other two security pieces we already have and provide a really good solution for us.
Okay, what's the total of the three of them?
The total of the three, I don't have that information in front of me right now. I can definitely get that for you.
All right.
Do they give like a bundling discount because we use the other two and we're using this one?
What I was told from the Fortinet rep is that they gave us very aggressive pricing. What was also helpful is the end of their fiscal year coincides with the end of the calendar year. So this is we are in a very good position to leverage the best pricing of the year that we're going to get.
Will this only be installed on Mac computers or all computers?
This will be installed on all Windows
Okay.
devices, all Mac devices, and all servers we have in our data centers.
So only, but not the kids' computers and all that. That's
The-
separate, or will it be installed on the kids' computers too?
It will not be installed on the Chromebooks that are issued to the students.
Do we have any antivirus protection on their computers?
Not currently. There's protection through Google. It's not an antivirus per se. It's kind of like when you thought about 10 years ago, Macs were kind of immune to viruses because people weren't writing viruses to attack them yet. I think the same can be said now with the Chromebooks because they're so new. Not to say that can't happen at some point down the road, but we haven't experienced that, and the company hasn't recommended putting antivirus on those just yet.
Gotcha. Okay.
And again, that's a different type of machine that really doesn't store anything locally on the device. It's more, if you think back to the old days, it's more or less a terminal to access your computing that's done in the cloud.
Okay.
Whereas a Windows device and a Mac device has a hard drive with an operating system installed on that hard drive. Files are stored locally there.
Okay. So it's basically just our teachers and admin staff.
Yeah, it'd be all our professional staff, which is 590, our administrative staff, our secretaries, business office professionals, etc. Any labs that we have out there, which we've been eliminating. Still some labs out there at the high schools and one each at the intermediate school.
All right, so the 104,000 is for a 5-year period?
That is correct.
Do we spread
right.
the payment out over 5 years, or do we pay up front?
That would be paid in full upfront. And again, this is this would be funded through the through grant funds. And if you look at, I mean, if you look at the pricing, a 1-year option, let's just call it 55,000. You know, if you double that, you're at 110. So I think the 5-year option is very aggressively priced. And again, it really helps us that they're at the end of their fiscal year. So this is it's like those car commercials on TV. It's a year-end event.
Okay, and it comes with any like software updates as they happen, or?
Yes, yeah. So you'll as you continue to get virus definition file updates regularly that are downloaded to the machine, and then as the program itself is rewritten and updated, that we're also eligible for that, because basically what we're buying is we're buying a 5-year subscription to this software.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Borash on this before he moves on to his computer bids? Hearing none. Brian, move on to computer bids, please.
Okay. Typically we do historically we've done computer bids and taken them to the board for consideration in June or May. Last year we moved that up into April, and with device shortages, thank goodness, because we got all our stuff in July, August. What I've been told is there's 6-month backlogs. There's parts problems. Glass for screens is scarce right now. We did put the computers out to bid, I believe it was a week or two ago. And then we would get those bids are due Monday, January 4th. So we would bring them to you for your consideration at the next finance meeting, which I don't know if the dates have been set yet, but assuming it's on the second Monday of the month, I believe that would be January 11th.
Mm-hmm. And how many computers are we putting out to bid for?
Off the top of my head, approximately 1,500 Chromebooks. So that those 1,500 Chromebooks would be for grades 1, 5, and 9. There are injection points. Those students keep those devices for 4 years.
Okay.
And then there's also some administrative computers at the elementary schools, offices. When I say administrative, principal, assistant principal, guidance nurse, et cetera, secretaries, and then also the teacher machines, which are Macs. The Macs are not part of the bid. That's a separate price, but we already got pricing for those.
Okay. And then do we like refurbish the computers that like the 4th graders turn in before 5th grade and the 8th graders turn in before 9th grade? What do we do with those?
So the ones that you typically get, the Google license is good for 5 years on a Chromebook.
Mm-hmm.
As you can imagine, with issuing these to students and then taking them home and back and forth to school, et cetera, there's a lot of wear and tear. They're using them 5, 6, 7 hours a day, if not more, when you consider home use outside the typical school day. What we've been doing is we've been keeping the better ones to use as spares and parts, and probably about half of those then we sell back to a recycler.
Okay.
That generates some revenue for the district.
Okay.
So you're just looking for our blessing to go ahead with getting bids and stuff, or are we're not approving anything tonight?
No, it's more informational that, you know, this is when we've done it in the past. This is why it's moved up because of parts and device shortages. And that's why you'll be seeing the bid results for your consideration at the January meeting, just so it's on your radar.
And I assume the kindergartners get the leftovers as well, since we start with 1st grade and kindergartners now get computers too.
Yes. And this year, when we were in hybrid, kindergartners were not bringing the devices back and forth because depending on the size of the kindergartner, they struggled with it. So when we get back to being in school full time, which I hope is sooner rather than later, those devices will most likely stay in the classroom and not go home with the kindergartner.
Okay.
All right, but let's say we go ahead and we bid them. You know, we're not gonna plan on a date of actually receiving them with the backlog that they're having, right?
Well, what I was told yesterday, from one of the vendors is plan on 6 months. So if this goes to your consideration at the finance meeting and you approve it, then it goes to the full board for their consideration, and the full board decides to approve it. That's the 4th Monday in January. We can get an order out then. So we'd be looking at getting them typically when we would get them anyway, which would be July, August.
So we have to do it early.
Yes.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. We could still start, let's say school opens up, you know, at the normal time for next year. You know, if we had to use them a month or two to start the year, that wouldn't be a hardship, right?
It would not be a hardship. It's difficult to deploy devices if we end up in a situation like we are with the hybrid environment. You know, we like to get those devices to the students on the first couple days. That's ideal from a logistical standpoint, and from so they can hit the ground running from an instructional standpoint.
So my question is, if we know we're running behind, we can tell our 8th graders, keep your laptops. We can tell our 5th graders, keep your laptops, and they can kind of use them in the beginning of the year. And all we have to worry about is our transfer students.
That's exactly what we did this summer. So the 8th grade students kept their devices over the summer. And when they went to the high school, they turned their old device in to get their new device, as 9th grade is an injection point.
Okay. So I assume we'll do the same thing this year, just in case.
Yes. Yes. And there's so many, you know, we have so many different summer programs that we offer now. It just makes sense to allow the student to have that device over the summer.
We're going to be spending the money anyway, whether it's in
right,
you know, January or June. We're still going to be making this procurement, so
correct.
I don't see any problem with just making sure it happens, and we're in the queue to get the devices, so that
right,
there's
exactly.
no problem later on.
All right, so we'll have the quotes
in January.
That's correct. We'll have them. You will have the bid tabulation result and the quotes for your finance meeting in January.
Okay. Perfect. Any other questions for Mr. Borash?
Yeah, can we get a copy of the specifications and the warranty?
When you say the warranty, what do you mean by that?
Well, whatever the warranty is on them, if they break down or this or that. I mean, obviously, if they get dropped and broken, they're not warranted, but.
That's not entirely correct. So we've been buying this last batch of Chromebooks, we get a 3-year warranty with the student Chromebooks, as well as accidental damage protection. And that's what's in the bid this year as well.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Good.
I think that's important.
As far as the specs, I can provide them to the committee for all the devices. I'll send you the bid document. You can read through that. That has all the specs for everything that went that's bid.
Okay.
And you wouldn't be bidding it on last year's bid specs. You would create a new bid spec based on newer technology, right?
That is correct.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay. Next up is the food delivery program by Ms. Colavecchio.
Evening.
Melissa? Yeah.
Yes. So just a brief update on our meal program, comparing the revenue expenses with meal delivery versus without. You'll see on the spreadsheet the month of September, We only provided meals to students attending in-person instruction. That was a total revenue of $125,000. In October, we implemented the meal delivery via our buses, and it doubled the revenue, as you'll note on this spreadsheet, $274,000. So in this analysis, note the bottom line. Without meal deliveries, we suffered a loss of $169,000. With meal deliveries, we covered all costs, which include the bus driver, labor, fuel, and we profited $25,000. So at this point in time, well, obviously, full virtual model. We're continuing the delivery of the meals. We also have the grab and go sites available. But if you're looking at, once we go back to hybrid, whether or not to continue the meal deliveries, at this point, it's pretty much a no-brainer. If we do not, we are going to continue to suffer a loss.
And when you say meal deliveries, you weren't sending meal deliveries in September to the kids?
Not in September, we were not.
Oh, I thought we were. Okay.
No.
And how long do we have the money coming in from the state to fund school lunches? Just during COVID, or when is that anticipated to end at some point?
It's as of right now, it's till the end of this school year, June 30th, 2020.
So basically what we're saying is in September, we were not getting reimbursed, where in October we were, and that's why we have a profit.
In September, we did not have the meal delivery via our buses. In October, we did. So we didn't have the program, the meal delivery program running in September. In October, we did. So we're obviously serving a lot more meals with the meal delivery.
So we're getting more reimbursement.
We're getting more reimbursement. That is what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And George, to help you out on that is also, you got to remember, we have a full staff, and with the limited number of students in the buildings, we're not producing as many meals without the delivery because we don't have as many students in the buildings at the time, but we're having our kitchens fully staffed as requested. So that's why you see the big difference in September. And then when October came, we went with the busing again, and that where we were able to drive out more meals, but we still had the same staff on.
Yep.
So then the reimbursement kicks in and helps the district out.
And we're doing something for the kids, so we want to keep. Yep.
Absolutely.
And I've gotten very positive feedback from the community as well with the meal delivery. So
Good to hear. Our staff is working very hard.
and they're appreciated. So make sure they know that.
I told them that today.
Perfect. Any other questions for Ms. Colvecchio?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is bus stop cameras. And we'll hear from Ms. Rohr.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Hello.
Hello?
We hear you.
Okay. So I did get 3 quotes. This is a grant that we received around $140-some thousand. I got 3 quotes, one from Provision, which is the camera system that we currently use, one from Gatekeeper, and one from Sand Safe Fleet. I would like to go with the Provision because 1, they're a co-star partner with us, and 2, the cameras that we're using right now are all Provision cameras. If we try to install a stop arm camera that is a different manufacturer, a different setup, it's going to take more installation time for the mechanics, and it's not going to work well with the cameras we already have installed in the buses. We'll have 2 separate systems inside the buses, and the Provision gives us the ability to just plug and play into the camera systems we already have. The only difference is going to be the cameras that are placed on the outside of the bus. So all of the infrastructure is there to just plug these new stop arm cameras in, and they'll mesh with the cameras that are already inside the bus. They're very unique. They catch just about everything of a vehicle passing through a bus stop red lights. It captures 180 degree from the side of the bus. And as soon as you activate the amber lights, which are the yellow lights, those cameras start running. So hopefully this will deter some people from running the reds, and we can get some support also from our law enforcement and our district magistrates in the area. So the provision is my choice. It is around 148,000, and that the mechanics already know how to install those, so the installation would not be needed. So that's where we're at. I know it's a bit over the grant money that we received, but I do have money in my budget that's left for new equipment, so I can cover that extra 8,000 with my budget.
So does this get a view of both sides? So if a car comes up, not the side the stop sign's on, but the other side, will it catch that as well?
Yes. It will catch all sides. It will also get a clear picture, and I know that a lot of reds violations, the magistrates won't prosecute because you can't tell who was in the car, but this will capture a picture of who's actually driving that car. So they won't be able to get away with it.
And then, like I said, it'll catch both sides of the bus, front, side, back, whatever, with they,
Yes.
wherever they decide to weasel around the bus.
Yes.
Will these
And are these
cameras,
removable?
am I on mute?
Are they removable from, if we get a new fleet of buses, can we remove these and place them on the new buses?
Yes. The entire camera system would be able to be removed. And the mechanics know all about the camera system. So if that were to happen in the future, they would know how to take the cameras out. It's the same with our Zonar systems. Our Zonar can be removed as well. So yeah, all of those systems can be taken out and put on a new fleet of buses. But you might, oh, go ahead, Rich.
Thank you. Will these cameras connect to the hard drive, or they have their own hard drive?
They will have their own card like we have now, where we pull the SD card out of the camera system and you plug it into your computer and you would be able to see it. It's the same kind of system.
Right. So the bus goes out on a run. The driver comes back and reports on a piece of paper, hey, at stop such and such, the driver went through my reds. And then somebody will go out, pull the card, read the card, find the time on the, I mean, I just did this today for one of my buses, so I get the process here, except ours are all wireless, so I can just sit in my office and download the video. But so somebody's going to do that. When we receive so we capture the video, we see the person, we got their license plate. Who's taking it to the magistrate?
That they would still have to fill out the reds violation form and file it with the state police or whoever jurisdiction that they're in. And that would be used as evidence in case the driver, and most of them do, because it's a huge fine and you lose your license for 30 days, I think, the first time. So as evidence, that would go into the magistrate so that they could see that, yes, this was the person. Because a lot of
who's doing that?
Who's responsible for doing it? Is it you being the director of transportation, or is it the individual bus driver?
Oh, no, it's either the director or the supervisor. We both have the capability to read the SD cards.
Okay, so you're going to go out to the bus, pull the card, read it, do all the work, file it with the magistrate, right? And then they're going to...
Yeah.
So
we file it with the state police and they send out the fine. And then from there, the person who ran the reds has to determine if they're just going to pay the fine or if they're going to fight it. And then it goes to the magistrate. Not all of them go to the magistrate.
Not all of them get suspensions then. Some of them are just fines. How do
Correct.
they determine?
That's up to the magistrate. They can plead out and pay the fine and not get their license suspended, or they can fight it completely. And we bring in the evidence that shows that, they actually did do it, and then they're going to lose their license for a while.
Okay.
It's completely up to the magistrate how he wants to handle it.
And then the other question I had, I don't know if Rich is going to ask this, but how much data can the SD card hold before it's full, and who's responsible for monitoring the data on the card to make sure it's not full?
Those cards re-report. So if we get an indication from a driver, they fill out a sheet, hey, this happened at this stop, we got to pull that SD card right away, and then we could download that and save it onto our computers.
And how quickly do they like, is
I
it
believe
weekly,
they
is it monthly?
I believe they rewrite every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So the drivers have to be diligent in getting the information to us.
Okay.
How many have you filled out? How many cases have you brought before the magistrate or the state police in the past couple months?
The one, we just had one, and it went in front of actually Judge Germano, which I know we've had issues with in the past. And the driver went to the magistrate's office to testify, and he was told that the offender pled out, paid a fine, and Judge Germano let them do that. Now, as far as other district magistrates, we haven't had any reports that any other REDS violations have happened, at least this year. But that particular one, you did?
Yeah.
You saw it, or the bus driver saw it?
I saw it. I reported.
Oh,
And
because
I saw
a lot
one
of
several months ago.
the cool thing about these bus stop cameras is that a driver can't always catch the license plate. They can't always catch seeing the person who was in the car driving. So these bus stop cameras help that, because they can say, look, I know this car went through my reds at this time, at this stop, but I didn't get a light. I wasn't looking, because they're watching the kids get off the bus. They're not really looking at the cars. And that gives us the opportunity to go out and pull that SD card and find that perpetrator or that person who ran the reds. And that's huge for the drivers, because now, so a lot of times they feel frustrated because they couldn't get that information while they're out on the road. There's just too much for them to keep track of when they're doing one of the stops, and they're watching the kids to make sure they don't cross the road before they're supposed to. So this is basically to catch the information that the drivers may not be able to catch on their own.
Will it be able to catch it in the mornings too, when it's still dark?
Absolutely. It comes on with a light.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he did demonstrate it to us. It comes on, like I said, when you hit the ambers, when they hit that master switch, and catches everything from the time they put their ambers on until they pull the door shut and the stop arm goes back in.
Okay. Because as you know, it's very dark in the mornings here at 6:30
Yes.
when the middle school and high school kids get on the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And in some of these areas are very dangerous, just
Yes.
dangerous.
The bus
So-
stops are very dangerous, a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah.
the video, like it's daylight out.
Yeah, it'll make it look like it's daylight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So there will be no mistake who was in that car or
I think we desperately need them, because I witness at least every week at my kid's bus stop somebody running the red.
Yep. And unfortunately, the other thing, and I'm not sure how Pennsylvania works with New York or New Jersey. So you're a Pennsylvania bus. You have a New Jersey or New Yorker run your reds. I'm not sure that New York and New Jersey, that we report that to them.
Right.
They report to, because in my view, whether you're from New York or New Jersey or Pennsylvania, you still ran a bus's reds. You should still be under the same penalties as the state you ran the reds in. But I don't know if they all cooperate. I don't think New York does.
And I don't think New Jersey has reciprocity with Pennsylvania either.
Right.
But the fine, so the points might not transfer.
But the fines will.
The fines
will.
And that's really what we're interested in here, I think, in a way.
But
where does the fine go to? Does it go to the county? Does it go to the school? Does it go to, re-education of people to do the right thing?
I don't know where the fine money goes to, but I know that in Pennsylvania, a first offense running a red is a suspension of your license. And if they're from New York or New Jersey, and they don't get their license suspended, they're just going to keep doing it if they can afford to pay the fine. Right. That's where the reciprocity, I think, should come in. But unfortunately, a lot of states don't agree with that.
I think the state law recently was modified so that we can get some of that money. I'm not mistaken.
You're correct, Rich.
So the more of these that we do, not only does it make it more safe for our children, but it also improves the budget.
We're going to be like the
the
state police issuing tickets.
Well, yeah, I mean, it really comes down. Well, the state police get a part of it, and then we get part of it. I think that's the way that works,
right.
or the judge's district, whatever. So there's a value there. I guess my biggest concern is, will you, Diane, will you have the time to
absolutely
pull the video, make the complaint, bring it down to Germano's office, follow up? And this is a process that,
or to North too, because North is
right.
Maldonado,
really.
Yeah, and what will happen, and I've talked with Patrick up at the shop, if they get a report from a driver that someone ran their reds, Patrick will say, okay, what bus? And he'll go pull the video for me and he'll bring it down and say, hey, they had a reds violation today. We want to look it up and see. We want to download this information to our computers so that when we go to the magistrate, we have this evidence. And that's worked well since I've been here. If there's an accident or an incident on a bus, the driver will let Patrick know and he pulls the videos right away. And we have plenty of replacements that we could, if I needed to keep that SD card for some reason. But usually what I do is I download it right to my Google Drive and I have it in there, for when we go to court.
And I know Maldonado, zero tolerance for that kind of stuff. Up north in Pike County,
Yeah.
He's like zero tolerance when it comes to that. So
yeah. And
a lot different than Geronimo.
It should be, because how many kids are killed every year because somebody felt they didn't have to stop for a bus's reds?
Mm-hmm.
You just got to be vigilant. And for a driver to experience, I've talked with drivers. I drove for 15 years, so, and we talk, drivers talk, and I've met drivers who have had that experience where a child was killed. And it was very hard for them to deal with that because you're helpless inside that bus. And that kid runs out and that driver decides they're not going to stop, and you have a tragedy on your hands. And it can be devastating to a bus driver. And Lord knows we don't want that to happen here. I just wouldn't tolerate it. So these are a good idea. I like the ProVision because we're already using them. It's a much easier installation and a much smoother transition as if we would use a different manufacturer of the cameras.
Okay.
And the mechanics are familiar with installing the cameras, and they can install these for much less than what they're asking. Like, we can do it all in-house.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect. Larry, Rich, since you're familiar with buses, any other questions or concerns?
Yeah, technology is pretty good. I mean, the SD drives are secure digital. It's fine. They're not like hard drives where they're getting all rattled around.
Right.
Yeah.
Larry, anything for you?
Well, I just wanted to confirm. I think up north, aren't the doesn't security come over and pull the SD cards, and then they send it down to you electronically?
Yeah, sometimes if they know about it. Yeah, our school police are involved as well.
Right.
So,
Now, the school police won't do any visits to the house or visits to the people if they pull the plate. That's
No.
the state police's job. Not
that's the state, that's the state police. We send it over to them and they take it from there. So,
But we can ask the school police to come to a bus stop if we see it happen multiple times or whatever while it's being investigated to deter it, or no?
yes, and I have actually contacted the state police for certain stops where we're having issues with. The one was a high school kid, or maybe just out of high school, and he was kept running the reds. And I contacted our state police contact and told him exactly where it was happening, and he went up and watched for the kid, and he took care of it from there. So because I was getting complaints from parents about this particular gentleman in his car. And so I have the ability to contact the state police as well. But if it's a Reds thing, we can contact both and have them both watch, or whoever has the time, because I know the state police are pretty busy. But our school police could do that as well. Chief would do that for me.
He's done it a lot.
Yes, he's come to
Yeah.
ours.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Alrighty. Any other questions
Thank you.
for Ms. Rohr? Nope. All right, Tom, are you ready?
Yes.
Where's the enthusiasm, Tom?
I'm excited. How about that?
Okay. All right. IU fuel bids.
Yes, IU fuel bids. Usually this time of year, actually this agenda here, you would normally see you'd be looking at the bids for our different fuel usage through the IU. However, with the recent pandemic from the end of school last year and now into this year, the IU has pushed off the bid opening until a later date. We have a meeting on Friday. We should get some more information at that point, but we're probably looking not to go out to bid till about February. They were concerned of talking with the energy people that they deal with at the IU. They feel that we should wait until January, February to possibly go out to bid. So hopefully I'll have some more information for everyone at the January meeting, but they did not go out to bid yet. And the plan is somewhere between February and March to put out the bid for next year. So just want to give you a heads up in case someone's looking and wondering why we didn't put it out. You didn't see anything yet.
Okay. And then Burke 1.
Burke 1, this is a usual every December. This is from Act 80. This is when they consolidate all the tax collectors for the earned income tax. And this is to make sure all the correct the income tax is going to the correct municipality. We always pick bundle B, which I believe is the same amount as last year, $730. And that's really about it.
Perfect.
On that.
Your favorite stuff. Preliminary budget.
Preliminary budget. We did share out the PowerPoint presentation I'll do at the board meeting. I'll go through a quick highlight so I don't put everyone to sleep tonight, twice in one week. But we did put together a budget, had some great feedback from our department heads, and some great working back and forth of trying to save as much as we can without affecting the students' learning. And in this time right now, with everyone not working and everything going on, I want to show you where we are, but I'm also going to show you where we are right now. I'm going to show some of our revenues, how our revenues are coming in a little better than expected. And then I'll talk about our charter school costs, and then I'll show you some of the preliminary budget. And then you would have to make a decision if you would like to just do the resolution like we do every year. You would raise your taxes up to 4.2%. Limit yourself to that, or do a preliminary budget, and that would say you would ask the state for exceptions above the index. Again, that's a full board decision. The committee can recommend and have that discussion on Monday night. But if you go to page 3 of the handout, we can first talk about property tax collections. Not sure who is controlling that
Me.
screen.
Tom,
They had it up.
Tom, you could share your screen, or do you want me to share it?
Yeah, if you don't mind, you had it actually up there. I looked at it before
Okay.
when we were going on earlier. As long as you don't mind scrolling through for us. There we go. Oh, right, yep, there's our agenda. Like I said, I'm going to go through a little quicker tonight, just so I don't bore you as 2 nights this week. So if you go to the next page, Brian. So if you look at the, this is our property tax collections. Some good news right now. This is from our August collection through October. And as you can see, as of right now, we are about $1 million ahead of last year's collections. I'm not sure how much we want to take. That just means people are paying prior to during the discount period. I will have better numbers come middle of January, the end of January, once we finish our reconciliation with the tax collectors and we send everything over to the counties. But this is just a good indication that we are doing some better collections. Also, the real estate market is still pretty hot once we open back up again. So this is much better than we expected. If you can go to the next page, Brian, this is one that is really eye-opening to me. This is our earned income tax collections.
Wow.
And as you can see, this is, again, July through October. We are $100,000 ahead of last year. And I saw your reaction, Rebecca, and I the same way. I don't understand it. That just to me, that means people are working. People are paying their taxes. People are out there, and there's jobs out there. And that is a fantastic sign. Especially, like I said, July, we were still tight, not much opening up yet, and even August, and then finally we start opening up a little. Now we're starting to get back, getting closed down a little bit, but now this is a great start for our first 6 months of the year, or first 3 months, or July through October.
What do we usually, so we're ahead of where we usually are?
Correct. Yeah. So if you're looking at the bar in the middle there, that was last year's collections at the same time. So as you can see, we're about $95,000 ahead of last year.
And that's pre-COVID.
That's pre-COVID, correct. And then 2 years ago, as you can see, we are about $150,000 ahead of 2 years ago. So we're doing pretty well in this category right now, which is good to see. And then our last, that was our last. Then our next page, now I have some not so good news. Here's our charter school costs. So in the right-hand corner there, you can see our enrollment of 2019-20, last school year was 241 students. And right now in 2021, as of October 1st, we have 461 students that are enrolled or in transition of enrolling into the into the charter schools. So I did also show you our tuition broken out between special ed and regular ed. And what I did here was, so that's what we file with the Commonwealth, and that's what we pay per student. And as you can see, it went up a little bit for the 2021 school year. With that, I also took the enrollment, and we knew what our costs are. We have our enrollment broken down by special ed and regular ed. And so I took that percentage, which actually breaks out evenly at 80% regular ed students and 20% special ed students. So when I took that calculation and used those tuition numbers there, I came actually pretty darn close to our total number there, 4.5 million that we spent last year in charter schools. So what I did was I used the same formula. I plugged it in using the enrollment that we currently have, and as you can see,
Leveled.
it almost doubles our charter school costs. Now, that doesn't mean that the students will come back halfway through the year. If we go fully back to school, will they come back? We don't know. But again, just want that on your radar, because we did have a projection of a $5 million loss, but we did not have our charter school costs as high as they are coming in right now. On the bright side is there's other districts out there that have lost a lot more students than we have. So I keep preaching about our cyber school, our in-house cyber school, that has saved the district a lot of money by diverting a lot of students there instead of straight out to charter school.
So we estimated 5 million, we're at 4 million, so we're doing a little bit better than we thought.
How many do we have in our soccer building?
I want to say around 4,000. I'm not sure if Dr. Vituli's on.
They all could be a charter school.
We have 2,800 in Osaka.
2,800.
So thank God we have a soccer.
Yeah,
Yes.
typically we have between 300 and 400 or 500. So yeah, we have about 2,300 students that stayed with us that could have left.
At 35,000 apiece,
Yes.
or 14,000, whichever. Yeah.
Brian, if you can jump to page 16, slide 16. Just a refresher. I'll go through a lot more detail on Monday, but just some cost factors, examples, what's controllable, what's uncontrollable, our staffing, our class size, facilities, our collective bargaining units, our agreements we have with them, and the non-mandated programs that we do offer at East Stroudsburg. Within our uncontrollable or the PSERS rate, that goes up every year. They keep saying it's going to stop, but it just keeps on creeping up there. We just talked about charter school tuition. We have to pay that no matter if it's a brick and mortar charter school or a cyber charter school. A geographic location. We have a lot of square mileage in our district, which makes us have a higher transportation costs, and then other mandated programs, special education and English language development. So just keep those in the back of your mind. And then Brian, if you can hop over to, I'll get to some of the interesting stuff. Fund balance, page 20. Yep, 21's good. As most of you remember, we talk about what's the most restricted fund balance down to the unassigned fund balance, which is the 8%. So just, sorry. So we have all the different, the restricted, the committed, assigned, and unassigned. In the gray is all board controlled or business office controlled, administration controlled. Restricted is when we kind of talk about when we put money into the capital reserve fund is a great example. Once you put it there, you can't use it again. You can't use it for something else. You have to use it for your capital reserve. You're committed is what is a board control, is a board function, and that's where we have our PSER savings, healthcare savings in that. Then the assigned one, which our board usually assigns funds to, and that's where we have a capital reserve additional funds. We have one there to subsidize our general fund for this current year. When we said we had that, we're going to use the 5 million out of the fund balance. And then unassigned is just what is left over. We haven't assigned it to anything unassigned. So just want to give you a reminder of what the fund balances were. And then Brian, if you can go to page 25, please. And now we're going to start getting into the fun stuff. So Act 1 of 2006, which is what we are in processing now, requires the following: a school district limitations on raising taxes. It's based off the base index, the adjusted index, and then, like I said, is you have the exception index, which is anything, which is your PSERS rate, your and special ed costs for the most part. And then you can go out to referendum. Again, these are tight timelines. We have certain dates and times that we have to keep in mind as we're moving along. And if you go to the next slide, Brian.
Tom, on the
Yeah.
we can go 4.2 this year with the referendum, right?
That'd be the adjusted index. That'd be that second
But
bullet point.
that would still put us in a negative for the year, would it not, from what I read this thing?
Correct, yes. I'll
So-
get there.
So if we didn't want to raise taxes more than 4.2 or go with a referendum, we'd have a negative balance with the school, with the budget.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, if you just go to page 27, next page, next slide. This is just a timeline in December here, because our next board meeting is after the deadline for the preliminary budget. We would have to decide at the December board meeting if you would like to do what we have done in the past, is the resolution stating you will not go over the 4.2 index, which is the opt-out resolution, or you would have to prepare, or the business office would have to prepare a preliminary budget to put on display for the public to see. And then we would go out and ask PD for the exceptions. And then they would tell us what those exceptions would be and how much, if they would grant them that permission, which they don't. If
we get the permission, we don't have to go over that. We can say we were able to figure it out, and later on, and we're able to we can get the permission just in case.
Yes, that is correct. You do not need, if you forego the resolution, does not mean you will raise the taxes higher than 4.2%.
Even if we do the preliminary budget and we say we get permission to raise the taxes more than 4.2, we don't have to.
Correct. That is correct. Yes.
It's just in case.
Yes. All right. Brian, if you can go to page 30. And this is what George was referring to. The base index for the state is 3%. It's up from 2.6, which was last year's index. The adjusted index based on the poverty of the district and some other key elements. As you can see, we bump up to 4.2%, up from 3.6 last year. And then little red mark there means if we were going to raise our property taxes to the adjusted index, you would generate $4.9 million of new revenue. If you go to page 32, Brian. And this is where does the money come from? And as you can see, we got 36% is state funded. 65.65% is local funded, which is is made up of your property taxes and your earned income tax. Federal, as you can see, is one of the smaller entitlements with your Title I, and that's almost 3%. And then other sources, which Brian mentioned earlier about when we were selling fixed assets, a computer recycling program, back when we used to sell our buses, and in our lease buyback program, that would be your other income there. Next slide, Brian. Your local revenue is 66% of your total district revenue. Real estate taxes is the largest component of the revenue, which is at 56% of your total revenue. Other taxes, which I mentioned, are your income tax, your local services, LST, your emergency tax, and delinquent taxes. Real estate revenue depends on three things, which is your assessed values, collection rate, which last year's collection rate was 90.16%, and your millage rate. The combination of those three is how we can generate our tax revenue on the property taxes.
So based on what we're seeing this year, it looks like our collection rate's better than it was last year.
It actually is gonna, well, yes, it could be, it should be better, yes.
Or is it because of the assessed value changed the formula in a way that increased revenue?
Actually, well, that's a good point, because our assessed value went up the current year we're in now compared to the prior year. Moving forward, our assessed value actually decreased
Right.
slightly. So we'll have to generate more tax dollars with less of a value. If that makes sense. Okay. Next slide. So here's the next slide was mentioning what we just talked about. We have to balance because we have a multi-county district. There's not many of us in the state, so we have the tax levy must be balanced between Monroe and Pike counties by the relative market values. The assessed values of Monroe County decreased by $41,745,000 at 1.57%, and the assessed value slightly decreased in Pike by $148,000. Then the collection rate also plays a factor in determining the millage rate. So if the board was to instruct the administration not to raise taxes, just like we have in the past, with the rebalancing of the funds, you would see the 21-22, you would see Monroe County actually stay the same as last year, but then you'll see Pike County actually drop. They would actually have a property tax decrease. And again, I just want to show that just so you could see that even if you say there's a no tax increase, because of the rebalancing, you will see some type of movement. So whether you said no one is to put, if you want to keep Pike County at the 23.66, well then Monroe counties would increase a little bit, slightly. Next slide, please. If the district increases the millage to 4.2% index, as you can see, like I illustrated earlier, that if there was no increase in 21-22, the Monroe County would stay the same. Pike County would slightly decrease to 121.21 mils. If you were to increase it to the full 4.2%, Monroe County would increase to 32.0458, and Pike County would increase to 128.8537. And again, this is all based on assessed values and the relationship of the collection rates of the two counties, and it's all merged together in a program that the state, where we put in our state budget. And again, those numbers right there with the 4.2% will generate $4.9 million for the district. Next page, Brian. Oh, go ahead.
All right, so the property tax, I mean, the assessed value went down by 1.something%. Is that why we went from 3.6 to 4.2? Or is there another formula that was used to get us? That
is a different formula, yes. And there's a lot of moving parts to create that index.
Right, but I guess if all things being equal, and we had no change in our assessed value of our property tax, or the assessed value of our, let's say the assessed value, would that still have gone up to 4.2%?
Yes.
So we're actually losing a 1.49%, even with the gain of 1 point.
In theory,
with
yes.
the change from 3.6 to 4.2. I don't know if I've lost everybody here, but
I get what you're saying.
No, you are correct. The value has dropped. Property value has dropped. So we're getting that millage rate, that increase based on a lower assessed value.
Right. And so so we have to work hard. We have to get more mills to get back to
just to get back to where we were last year. Yes.
Right. Okay.
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Next one, state revenues. Slightly going up with the new formula out there. It is benefiting. It's slowly, but it is benefiting the school, East Stroudsburg Area School District. State revenues. When I started here 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago, we were about 22% of our revenue was the state. And as you can see, we're slowly getting more and more state funding. Again, slowly, but we're starting to see some of that change from that new formula that was instituted a few years back. The problem with state funding, it's difficult to anticipate the funding. How will the pandemic affect our subsidy? Right now, they're promising they're not going to, at worst case scenario, they're going to flatline us again. Again, the state has a deficit and they're anticipating lower than expected revenues for the next 6 months. They've started the year off, I believe it's about $5 billion in the hole. So they have a lot of ground just to balance their own budget. Hopefully they will not forget about the school districts. And then on the second bullet point there, I didn't mention about the new basic ed funding formula, which has grown our state share, which has helped us tremendously and kept us not raising taxes for all those years. Next slide, Brian. And then federal revenues, again, 2.7. It's primarily the titles. The budget for we're budgeting at the 2021, the current levels, anticipated levels. There is rumor of those numbers possibly going down. But as of right now, there was nothing really set in stone, waiting for the administration to change to see what, hopefully they will actually increase those numbers moving forward. But again, they're
after an education, Mrs. Biden.
That's what we're all hoping for right now. Concern again is how they're going to pay for it. They're in the same boat as the rest of us, and they're looking to take care of the pandemic and trying to get some money out there to all the districts and local municipalities and the small business owners to try to weather this continued storm that we seem to keep having. Other revenue sources is 1.4%. Proceeds from financing, leases, the sales of fixed assets, bus buyback program ended in 17-18. That's why you see as the numbers slowly decreased, but we kept that number in there. Right about this, we've kept it about the same for this coming year. So next slide, Brian. So again, this is conservative estimated revenues as you compared to the current year we're in now, where we're estimating $160 million. Our net change is approximately 159,000, so it's less than 0.3% of a change, still a little less. Again, looking at some of the numbers, I think we can boost up some of this revenue a little bit more as we get closer. Right now, I mean, we're still over 6 months away from next year, but I think as you get closer to finalizing your budget, we might be able to see some of these numbers change a little bit to our favor.
Can I jump in here? Last year, for the local, we revised that downward for the 2021 school year.
Correct.
Because of our estimated loss of taxable income because of COVID.
Yeah.
So it could have been 106, right? I mean, 107
yes.
The previous year before that. So
yes, and that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking I still don't want to jump there yet.
Right. Conservative is good.
Yes, I agree with you. And then now again, our property taxes have slipped because of that assessed value. So unless if we keep everything the same, you're still going to lose some money there. However, your earned income tax you can bring back up. I'd say the only thing that we've been pretty good at is our return on investments, and right now those are still practically a zero right now. And that was probably about $1 million a year just alone that we would bring in. So that would be the only one that you wouldn't want to probably touch, but I think it was about $500,000 in EIT that we can add back in if everything stays as good as it's been, probably even higher, because like I said, we're a little higher than we have been. So yes, like I said, there's when you get closer, I can see those numbers going up on the local side. And then hopefully the state gives us a little more, but again, like that's flatline budgeted right now. And also you will see some changes in the state side with the PSERS and the Social Security reimbursement. So right now I have the same budget, the same as last year, but you'll probably see a significant increase there that could help also bring in some extra revenue.
Last year at this time, we looked at how buildings were spending to their budget. How are they doing this year with hybrid and all that? Are they spending less? Like the principals' budgets? I know last year we had a couple principals at this time that were near or over their allotted budget. And we're not using as much paper now, so has that saved us some money?
Yes. Right now we're about 40%. So think about, we're 6 months into the school year, and so we should be about 50%. A majority, there's not, I don't think there's anyone over 50% spent on their budget this year so far.
Okay.
I want to say the average is right around 40%, and there's some even less than that. The one great news, we just put in our order for our paper supply for next school year. And that number is, I'm waiting for the IU to call me back and ask if we did it right, because we almost ordered nothing.
Well, because we didn't use any this year, right?
Correct. We not only do we have enough left over from last year, even this year's order, we kept the same because we were afraid we weren't going to be able to get the supplies, because at the time cleaning products, paper towels, toilet paper was hard to come by. So we kept orders the same coming through this year. So now we're stockpiled to the point that I think we did order some small amounts, small quantities, but nowhere near the thousands of dollars we've normally spent. So we're going to go through that. That is already included in here, and I'll show you that when we get on the expense side.
And we're doing a better job of inventorying now too with the new supervisors, correct?
Yes. Everything's being everything is being checked and double checked before anything's ordered now. So which is a nice thing to see. Any other question on the revenue side? All right, salaries. Salaries are 72% of our budget. So that's why it's hard to always try to reduce a budget, because the only way to significantly reduce your budget is through your salaries and your benefits. We have over 1,200 staff. Next slide, Brian. Wages and benefits are 72%. Debt service is 11%, so that makes up 83% of the district's costs are fixed. That means we're really tight with anything else we want to try to spend. By contrast, less than 20% of the district's costs are variables, which are supplies, books, which we just talked about, professional services, utility, purchase services, maintenance, and equipment. But even some of those are not controlled by the district. So we have our special ed costs that are always going up. Our alternative ed, our charter school tuition is always going up. Insurance is going to go up. Go back to look at slide 16 when I talked about our controllables and our uncontrollables. These items are all in there. So we have that that less than 20% of our budget that we can really work on to try to squeeze every dime out we can, and it's getting harder and harder. So next slide, Brian. So comparing our salary and benefit costs from last year to this year, and as you can see, we're projected to have an increase of $3.7 million in salaries and benefits costs, which is about a 3% increase. And this includes the PSERS increase, our healthcare increase. Our healthcare increase is about 5%, 5.5%, and PSERS Their increase was about 0.15, I believe was the number of an increase. And then on top of the salary increases that we have already contracted in, plus we also have the professional contract that will expire before this school year, at the end of this school year. So that will be addition. That is part of it. I have a percentage put in for the professional staff, so that is in there for this illustration. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. Our non-salary benefit and benefits costs project to only increase $284,000. That's 0.6% of our budget. Like I said, our directors, our building principals, superintendent, very good on some hard work here put in trying to keep these numbers as low as possible. Again, like I mentioned earlier, special ed costs go up, insurance goes up, computer costs go up. So things are going up, but yet we're still finding ways to keep those costs down as much as possible. And like I mentioned to Dr. Riker earlier today and some of the staff today, I have a large increase with our charter school costs. I actually have an extra $2 million in there compared to what we're spending, what we budgeted this year. But to see what we may spend this year, and if we get all those students back, we're going to have that big number there. But if we could see a lot of our students are coming back towards the end of the year, we can lower that cost to hopefully offset this a little bit, which would then show that we didn't even spend, we didn't raise or ask for an increase on our non-salaries and benefit part of our budget.
Why is it, this is just a simple question, I guess, Dr. Riker can answer. Why is it that we have to pay for charter schools, but if they choose to send their kid to Notre Dame, we don't have to pay for that? What's the difference?
Charter schools are considered a public entity, just as if it's a school district, where the Notre Dame is a non-public school. And those are the two differences why you pay for one and not for the other.
It's also parochial education, so they can teach religion, whereas that.
Correct.
Yeah.
They can
Like
teach
you
what
send
they
your kids to Moravian or Scranton Prep, it's not religious. It is what it is. But those parents choose to send them.
Ask Harrisburg.
That's correct.
Yep. So all in all, our total investments are projected to increase approximately $4 million, or at 2.39%. Again, I commend the staff for putting this together. This has been, I think that's during this pandemic, I mean, our expenses just to go up 2.39% of our budget is pretty good. I still think there could be some work to do. We can start looking at some open positions, things like that, but that's where we stand once you combine all the expenses together. And then I'll just go through a couple little tidbits. Go next slide, Brian. This is what we spend 56.63% of our budget on our students, on the instruction of our students. Next slide, Brian. And then to support our students, we spend an additional 31.37% of our budget. And these are different parts of the district that helps support our students and support our professionals and providing the instruction to the students. And then non-instruction and our debt service is only 12% of our budget. And student activities would be any extracurricular activities outside the school day. And then our debt is our debt service. Next slide. And here's my dollar bill. And as you can see, 70 cents on every dollar is spent direct or indirectly supporting student learning in East Stroudsburg Area School District. 15 cents of every dollar is spent on maintenance and operations of the district to maintain the buildings and the computers and everything for these students. 10% or 10 cents of every dollar is spent on debt service. And then 5 cents of every dollar is spent on your administrative team and your services that they provide. It's a very low cost for a size of a district that we have here. As you can see, 70% of our money is being spent to help educate our students here. So in summary, here's our preliminary results. And I just compared them up to last year. As you can see, our revenue is at 159 million, which is, like I said, 0.3% less than what we had last year, and that mostly because of the property tax change, less coming in with the assessed values. Salary and benefits, a 3% increase. Again, not a bad increase there with all the contracts that we have. And then our other investments, again, is a 0.6% increase to 47 million. So we have a net, right now we have a deficit of $9,600,000 compared to the 5.1 from last year. Next slide, Brian. And we have a budgeting, balancing budget act. So we have to take our revenues, which are local taxes and expenditures, and try to find that fund balance, the happy medium. Next slide, Brian. So our board decisions, some points. So we got our real estate taxes, the Act 1 index. Are you interested in raising it to the Act 1 index, which could bring in $4.9 million, which would bring us below below 5 million in debt or in operating loss for the year. We also have the fund balance. Do you want to use fund balance for the to cover some of this cost, kind of what the board suggested for during the beginning of the pandemic? And then budget adjustments. We got to prioritize our needs. What are we looking to do? Are we looking to cut programs? Are we looking to just stay status quo? Just what do the board's priorities, and what do we need to move forward with? Just need some guidance on that. And then our key takeaways, Brian, our second to last slide. Again, our projected starting deficit is 9.6 million. Again, we can work on that and hopefully get that down a little more. Decide if we're going to do 4.2%, or again, $4.9 million, which would be additional revenue to the district. And again, it's a December decision, preliminary budget, or do we do the opt-out resolution saying we will not raise our taxes higher? We guarantee not to raise our taxes higher than 4.2%. And that's it. Any questions?
Yeah, well, that last one was the important part. Isn't it the time we have to do that during this meeting in December?
Yes, you'll have to do that Monday night's board meeting. You have to decide if you.
That's where we got to really say, do we raise taxes or do we keep the same?
Well, no, you're not. You're not saying you're going to raise taxes. You're not going to. You're just gonna. Your decision is going to be. If we need to raise taxes, we will not raise them past 4.2. Then we'll do the resolution. Or you could say we may need to raise taxes, and we may need to raise them higher than 4.2.
That's what I'm saying.
So then we'll need to do a preliminary budget in January and put that out right when we get back from the holiday break. I believe it has to be displayed in December.
That's the big decision right there.
Last year, Tom, at this time, what were we short? COVID not happening, normal year. When we got to this point last year, what were we short? And then what were we able to balance? And then COVID, without COVID happening.
Last year we took it out of the.
No, but that we only did because of COVID. But at one point we were balanced, and then COVID happened, and we weren't.
At this point, I think last year we were about 2 million short, and we were looking at ways to kind of figure out how to bring that back into balance. We were almost there. I remember being like,
that's what I'm saying. We were almost there, and then COVID happened.
Well, that was around March.
Right, in March, right. And then COVID happened, and then we're like, oh crap, we have to figure something else out. Right. So there's a couple.
I don't want to get back to the point where we had 20 years ago when it was like 30% to 1 year.
Right, and I don't think so either. And
so I'd rather nip it in the butt a little bit at a time versus saying, okay, we got ourselves in a hole, so now we have to raise 30%.
Right. I don't think we really have that. So my first question, Tom, is do you think that the money that we set aside to cover the gap in the budget, are you thinking that we're going to need to use those funds for this current year budget? And this is early. I know it's December. It's not,
How much of it do you anticipate using?
This time last year, I just looked it up, we were about $6 million short.
Okay, perfect.
And then we got it all the way down to almost nothing. And then COVID hit.
And part of that was projected increased revenues and this and that, and finding ways to pull money out of the budget. Dr. Riker and your staff have done a great job of finding those little things. They're harder and harder to do every time you do it.
You only cut so much.
Correct. And so to George's point, I think that we need to consider that as an option of raising taxes of some amount. I mean, we can't just pretend that we don't have a problem. However, as I think back to it, I guess going back to my question is, do you think that the money that we set aside from the budget, what was it, our surplus from previous years, do you think that we're going to need that in this current fiscal year?
It's early to say, but like I said, looking at that charter school number, that there alone scares me that
that's a good
we'll have
point.
to use more than we anticipated. However, depending on how, I'm hoping we go back 5 days a week someday this school year. But if we don't, there is a good chance we could see some savings from that point.
Think students are going to come back if we go 5 days a week?
I don't know.
Yeah, and so if we're going 5 days a week, we have more consumables, we have more expense for paper and
exactly. So
toiletry and all that other stuff, and
utilities and
support staff. Yeah, utilities and all this good stuff that goes into that. So I guess when I look at the $9 million, I'm not freaking out by that. I'm looking at saying, okay, there's going to be opportunities for, because I think 2 years ago, in the end of last year, and you probably know this from the audit, what was our ending balance? Well, what was not the balance, but our revenues from last year?
We were about $3 million. Yeah, we were $3 million ahead of. We ended up with $3 million to the good. It was about 2.7, I believe, was the exact number.
And that's really good. Yes, but what was our total revenues that we received as a district in the last school year budget? So that, I figured with the audit just being done, was it 164, 166, something in that range, or was it more like 159?
Give me 1 second, I'll pull the audit up. It was 159.
Okay. Wow. You guys did really good on the expense side.
Yes, we did. We did very good. Very good.
Okay. So I don't panic when I see the 9 million, because I know that there's, to George's point, we can raise some revenue by increasing taxes. We can also,
grants.
Well, not only grants, but I mean, we're like, not grants necessarily, but we have the opportunity, we're not in a situation looking at this year's receivables that we're so far behind the 8 ball. Like, I was kind of expecting at this point that we'd be, $1 million or so behind our revenue collection rather than being $1 million ahead, that kind of thing. So
I agree with you on that.
Yeah. All right. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, I don't know if we need to, I don't think we need to go beyond the 4.2%. I think the 4.2% might keep us in line. And if we use, good judgment and sharpen our pencils on the expense and revenue side, we should be able to get there.
And I don't disagree with you on that.
And I think, a lot of teachers that are getting up in age, unfortunately, are going to retire, or fortunately or unfortunately, are going to retire because they're, the new way of learning might not be the way for them.
We still have a few years to go. I mean, this is one of our big discussions in the negotiations committee, in developing that budget and looking and forecasting how many teachers each year do we think we're going to retire? What are their ages, and how do we look ahead for that? I mean, 7 to 10 years from now, that's, we're going to see a lot more retirements, I think. And then 10 years from now, we're going to see that that when our bonds go away, we're going to have like a, $19 million poof, like in our expense. And then with the teachers, slowly rotate, becoming younger, it's going to create opportunities for us on the expense side, 10 years from now. But right now, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, well, your payment on the bills, the debt is going to be changed over to repairing the buildings. I mean,
you're right.
All of our heating and air conditioning and electrical systems are, coming up to the end of their life cycle. So, yeah, you're going to be farther in the hole. You're not going to be any better off there.
That's kind of almost. See, I think the difference is that we took out bonds for, several $100 million in order to build all those buildings, whereas the replacement of those specific systems, you're looking at, 30 million, 40 million over a course of like 7 to 10, 12, 15 years. Annualize those bond payments, you're really looking at, $3 to $4 to $5 million per year bond payments over versus 16, 17 million dollars.
Well, I would
in my
just,
brain.
Yeah, I would bet just in heating and air conditioning and electrical, you're probably looking at a couple $100 million over the next 10 years to keep up.
Right. Anyway, that's 10 years down the road. I'm not.
Well, you're going to have to start doing it here shortly. At the end of 10 years,
right.
It's not going to be workable.
Right. Good point.
It's going to be, it's going to be falling apart and leaking and inefficient and antiquated. Probably won't even be able to get parts, let alone,
right.
Yeah. So, that's something major that needs to be looked at. So, and I'll tell you what, I would really think that we're not going to get as much money from the state and the federal government next year as we did this year. They've taken it really tough. Yes, no, maybe.
I'm concerned about the state in a way, but I'm also thinking that with the federal government, there's probably going to be some additional relief in there. They're talking about additional packages for state and local that might, give us a little more cushion in the budget.
If they choose to give it to us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and that's a very valid point, Larry.
And each time they print more money, why the dollar is worth less. So, instead of getting, buying something for $20, now you're paying $25. So that's tough to figure out for your budget, but that's all part of it.
Yeah, but we're all going to be in the same boat.
Billy, I have a question on Billy or Bill, the two. Do we have any idea how many teachers, percentage-wise, do you think are going to take early retirement because of the virtual learning?
No, George, we don't. We actually tried to get that into the last contract so that we could predict what that may be. I know the committee is talking about ways to potentially look at that. We do know that Rich, help me out here. The numbers, if we were to do a 3-year, I think, agreement or something with the new collective bargaining agreement, we would be at a point where at the end of that, I think it was around 400 of our 599 teachers would be at the top of the salary scale.
They're at
So
the top of the salary scale,
we
but
are
they're not
not at
retirement age.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot
We're-
of the virtual learning technology is going to weed out a lot of them. We may not have as many teachers in the district at that point, or am I wrong on that?
No,
I hope not.
No, I don't think that would be accurate.
Well, that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, it's a good question, but I don't see that. I don't see that going to even if we offered more remote learning, that you're going to have larger class sizes, which means you're going to have a reduction in staff.
That's what.
There are other ways you would have to look at that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, like Tom said, we're coming back to the classroom at some point. At some point, we have to come back to the classroom. So,
Yeah. Is there a simple way we could calculate, if we added one more student per class and type thing and come up with a number for that?
So you're saying class sizes to reduce the number of staff?
Yeah. Is there a way we could do that and that we could estimate the savings?
Sure. I mean, a ballpark, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
and it really would just be non-replacement. So rather than, when a teacher retires, not hiring a new one, but increasing the class size.
Right.
Yeah, and
we have
that's
a number already of how many students we have per teacher, don't we, Billy?
yes.
Yeah.
And the challenge always in balancing the budget on that is whether your attrition rate keeps up with your expenditures on the salary and benefit side. So
Right.
you can bank on a certain amount of attrition where you don't replace someone once they retire or resign from the district. However, there are times when the attrition rate isn't fast enough to stay up with the increases in expenditures. And then you're making a different decision.
And also depends on who's retiring and
Right.
if we need to replace that one because it's something, maybe the school has 3 3rd-grade teachers and they need 3 3rd-grade teachers and there's no one to shift around. You have to hire a 3rd-grade teacher.
Yeah, and we do that every year. There's never a time when a person retires or resigns from the district where we don't analyze whether there's a need to replace them or not. We definitely don't just simply say this person left, we need to replace the position. So we'll always look at, Rebecca, that's a great example, the numbers that we would use when we're looking at class sizes, especially at the elementary level, to determine whether we need to replace that person or we're able to lose that position through attrition.
All right. And are we making any improvements in special ed, to try to avoid the issues that we have there?
In the lawsuits.
Yeah.
You have probably one of the lowest, if not the lowest, lawsuit expenditures. In fact, we tend to win most of our cases. You've only heard a few with a school of our size and 20% of our student population having IEPs. Our expenditures on that end of it are really low compared to districts of our size or with our population. So I think we've done a lot to reduce, we brought a lot of programs back over the years so that we're not paying those expenses to transport those students or to have other service providers provide those services to those students. So it is an area we keep looking at, but I think as Tom presented very well, it's you never know, you could get 10 students move into your district with high needs that are going to cost the district $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 a year. And that's not something you can avoid. You have a requirement. Otherwise, you do go to litigation. So those are things that are those uncontrollables, unfortunately.
We'll probably be getting those people from New York.
Blame it on New York.
And the reality is, the better you do at special education services, the more people
Well, we
want to
get
come to
it,
your district.
That's what-
And that's okay. I mean, I want to do the best. So, but that is the double-edged sword, I guess you could say, in that process.
All right. Do we get more funding from the state and the federal then for, special ed as we get those students? Or do we have to wait a whole year cycle? Like,
It's usually a year, maybe 2 years out. They do have a special ed formula, but it's based off our expenditures. So, yeah, so in theory, when we get more and more students with an IEP, it would increase it, but it's a slow process, so it will take time before we get reimbursed on that.
so we pay we pay at least the first year out of pocket, and then the second year we might get some help, right?
Might start seeing it, yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Comments, concerns?
Maybe the.
So can be talking.
Okay, so next is the current projects within the district. Tom?
Yep, this is just my monthly synopsis. As you can see, the highlighted in yellow are the newest, latest additions to that. If you have any questions, just let me know. I think we closed out the North Control Project. The JT Lambert flooring replacement has been completed, it looks like. Just looking at the numbers.
Larry, you mentioned to me the train bill.
Yeah.
Let's discuss that.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day and at Property and Facilities. And I don't know, I was always under the impression that the water tower was all part of the train system when they put it in. But now all of a sudden I find out that no, we brought that was supplied by a different vendor. But I do know that John Colito, told us in several meetings that, yeah, it was a separate vendor for that cooling tower. Then after the meeting the other night, I found out that at some point shortly after it was installed, they found out that it wasn't put at the right height. So I thought Mr. Ely was going to try to come up with the plans for that and the contract maybe from back in that period and find out just what's going on. But, and then of course, Josh estimates that, to replace that is several $100,000. So, so that was encouraging. But if we can find the plans, maybe we can, at the very least, maybe if we find the plans and we find out how short it is, why we can incur the cost to raise it up rather than waste all of our chemicals and water,
So do we owe train that money? Did they do the inspection, or is that something that we have to pay, or we shouldn't pay? That's what I'm confused about.
Well, Larry and I were talking about that a little bit, Rebecca, because he asked me about it. And the thing was, I think John had said that they would fix it, but I don't remember it ever being written in the contract. So he can say to Larry, well, I didn't say that. And that's where the problem comes in. Am I right, Larry?
Yeah, he said it several times, and that's what led us, I think, all to believe that, it was a train unit and part of the system, and then to have it thrown out. But, if we can find the paperwork and review it internally, why, it could shine some light on us, and give us some direction. But I'm telling you what, if we find the prints and we find out that the contractor didn't install it right from the get-go again, then we figure out what to do with that. And there again, I think it would be cheaper to try to raise it than to replace it. If we can't find any paperwork or details or whatever.
Have we attempted to call the contractor that installed it to ask if to say, we believe you didn't put it into code?
Well, nobody really seems to know who it really was at this point. So that's why we wanted to see the contracts and the plans and see if we could come up with some information.
So this really sounds like a properties and facilities committee issue,
Well,
right?
yeah, and just to add to this, Rebecca, the item before you is unrelated. I mean, the item that Larry's speaking about is the same, but the plan that he's speaking of is the installation, which is not related to the train bill that you're looking at for application payment 8 for $283,000. They did, in fact, according to Josh Grice, they did do the work that they were asked to do by contract, and that was part of the agreement. So from your point, from a finance committee point, to answer your question, they did do what they were contracted to do. And Scott Ely did review the contract, that particular contract for this work that they have done on behalf of the district, and indicated that there was no language specific to the cooling tower that they were supposed to address as part of this agreement.
And that's what I was saying, Billy, too. The same thing. It was a verbal and it's not in a contract,
All right, have you had any communication, Dr. Riker, with Lyman and Ash over the sprinkler system at ESA?
The last communication was to send them the photos that Billy Gouger had completed, which I did.
Okay, because an interesting comment that was made by one of the attorneys the day that they were looking at it and getting the water samples and stuff was that, with COVID and the backup and everything, they're saying, well, hey, we're not even going to be in court until, 2024. So I'm wondering if we shouldn't maybe be relaying a message to Lyman and Ash that to send them a letter and find out if they're, willing to come in and repair it, or if their intention is to fight it in court. Because, 4 more years on that system, it's going to be leaking before we get to court.
I'm sure Lyman and Ash would love to carry it out 3 or 4 more years. So hopefully they do address that and expedite it, but I will take direction from the board on that.
Okay, well, we can have that discussion in executive session, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we'll let the bills look good. The next item is
dates.
Nope, is a recommendation by the Education Committee for that second step anti-bullying curriculum for children. And this covers 5 elementary schools, which were covered by a grant. And they budgeted for the 6th elementary school in the budget for next year.
Yeah, Rebecca, didn't we forget I on the, with the Tom McIntyre for the Finance Committee meeting dates?
That's not. Oh, yeah, sorry, the meeting dates. Yeah, we can do that.
Huh?
Yeah, we can do the meeting date, sure.
Yep, that's where they
That
are.
status quo, what we did before, if that works for everybody on the committee.
It works for me.
Second Monday. Larry,
And
second Monday.
Yep. And then if you see the 3 highlighted dates, I believe Patricia said that was part of I think there was a meeting the night before, so it was moved to a Tuesday.
Right, that would be the Martin Luther King
IU
Day, I
20.
believe, right?
Where are you
JLC.
dates?
JLC. MCTI JLC meeting.
MCTI, that's it.
Tom, the yellow ones are what?
MCTI meeting day, so that those yellow days are a Tuesday, not a Monday.
Oh, okay, yeah, because Larry and I are on the MCTI, yes.
We don't want you to miss the finance committee.
Yeah, we don't
meeting.
want to miss that. Don't want to miss either one.
I was so ready to go last night for our meeting and just,
Okay. And then where I was going now was the anti-bullying curriculum,
Yep.
which covers 5 schools, even though there's 6, but they only got enough for the grant to cover 5. So they're going to roll the 6th school into the budget for next year. And this is to supplement what they currently have and to add more to the curriculum for the elementary school level. Did I get that right, Dr. Vituli?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. Did anybody have any questions on that or? No? Okay.
No.
I don't know if we have any public, but do we have any public participation? I didn't see any public on there when I looked. So with that being said, I'm assuming there's no public participation. So our advisory recommendations to consider by the board are as follows. To move the second step anti-bullying curriculum in the amount of $5,645 to the board. Do I have a motion for that?
I moved.
Second.
Okay. So then we have a motion to move the antivirus 5-year contract to the board.
Now, are you taking the lowest bidder on that? Just wanted to make sure.
That's what we want to do, right, Mr. Borash?
Yeah,
We recommended Integra 1, I believe it was, for
Was-
104.
Okay, so Integra 1. Is the board okay with recommending Integra 1 for the 5-year contract?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then we need a motion to move forward the bus stop cameras in the amount of $148,676. And $140,000 of that is covered by a grant.
That was the
And
program, right?
we're recommending the ProVision cameras because we can install those ourselves, and that's the same software we currently have.
Yes,
Second.
Okay, and we have to approve anyways to move forward. Burke 1 Act 80 proposal for bundle B, $730.
so moved.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
we don't need to do anything for the food delivery. We're just to keep it status quo. Oh, and the computer bids, we're gonna get that later, but do we need to move that forward to the board to approve that? No, okay,
We'll get it next month, yeah.
okay. And then a motion to pay the bills recommended by the properties and facilities.
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Okay.
All right, so our next meeting would be on January. Let me look at the calendar.
All right.
It would be January 11th,
11th.
correct? January 11th?
Yes.
Can we have a motion to approve all the dates, please?
Okay,
So
next,
moved.
Okay.
I do have one question here,
yeah.
or a request, I guess.
Mhm.
You know, for I think we need to, did we get a copy of the proposal for the pod unit to work on the train units there for the 31,000?
I believe that was in the property facilities packet.
Yeah, but I don't think, I didn't get a scope of work or anything. It was just like a line item and, you know, do we have a real set of plans and diagrams and anything?
I have not seen any.
I don't know if you have plans, Larry, but I do know at property and facilities, all the items that were included as part of that, which were the 2 heating units to heat the air that was going to be put on the ductwork. All of that was, I know, part of what was shared at property and facilities. But as far as a schematic or a diagram, I don't know that I've seen that or that was shared.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think we really need to get, you know, more detail on this, because if we put out the 31,000 and it doesn't solve the problem, and then we have no, you know, no job description and no drawings and no calculations, then we're going to be out to 31,000 again.
Well, I do know Josh Grice was involved and he was at the meeting for those types of questions, but I can reach out to see if he has the plans to share. But I know Dewey was involved in that with Train, so I'm sure they have what you're looking for.
Right. Well, we had like three meetings on sites over the last 6 or 8 months, and it's been a long, drawn out process to even get, you know, any guidance on which way to go, you know?
Yeah, it started in February.
Yeah, of a year ago, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And the thing, and you can remember, the thing wasn't working right.
Yeah.
The first couple months that you were on board here.
Yeah, I agree. And the same price that was shared with the committee in February is the same one that you're looking at now.
Okay, but
same work.
Yeah, well, the price is okay if, you know, if it fixes it. And there again, you know, we pay people to do it, and then it doesn't get fixed, and then we don't have anything to, you know, to hang our hat on, you know.
But did you vote on it in property and facilities?
Yes. They voted on it.
Yeah, but
That's why it's here.
well, that's well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was a 2-2 vote or what it was. That's why I was asking the question.
Right. Yeah, we got a description and whatever, but we really don't have any paperwork, you know, showing, you know, what the load is and what the 31,000 is going to buy us to correct the problem.
And the PNF probably shouldn't have moved it along then, if that's your concern now.
Well,
should have been the concern back at PNF.
I agree. And again, they did describe what was included in terms of the equipment that was going to be utilized in that project.
Yeah, it was described, but not documented. So.
I'm sure it's documented. You just might not have a copy of that document.
Right.
Right. Okay. And as board members, what is our level of, you know, are we engineers to inspect that kind of stuff? I guess you know, it goes back to the micromanagement part of this. Are we as board of directors like responsible to do the nitpicky, in-depth evaluation of it, or we are more at the 50,000 foot level looking down saying to Dr. Riker saying, you know, we got to make sure that this happens properly. And we need to make sure we do our role correctly.
Well, I'm not looking so much to micromanage. I'm just looking that we have the paper on file that, you know, no different than we go out and we buy a bus and we spec it with, you know, the different things we want on it. And then obviously if the bus doesn't come with the right engine or the right.
Right. And those are very good points. So that's what Dr. Riker's job is, to make sure that Scott Ely would have the documentation that you expect to see as part of that pod, right?
Right.
So the question really isn't whether or not we have the documentation, is whether does Scott Ely have it, and does he understand it? And did Josh Grice make that clear to him what's involved in that, what he's actually looking at?
Right.
Those would be the kind of questions.
And in 6 months, when the thing doesn't work right, we got the paperwork to go back to Josh Grice and Train and says, okay, this is what you said was going to fix it. And guess what? It still doesn't work.
Right. And that's a properties and facilities issue. Okay, I'm hungry.
Me too.
I'm ready for dinner.
My
So-
family's discussing what are we doing for dinner as we're talking. That's why I was muted.
Right. So, anything else? Did we take the votes that we needed to move everything through?
Mhm.
You
I didn't
did,
miss anything, did I, Patricia?
just need to move to adjourn.
I just want to comment, Dr. Riker, I like your North shirt today you chose to wear for me.
Thank you.
For you.
Well, I'm the North mom, you're the South dad.
I'll go with it.
I'll just take it.
If it
yeah.
was South Rich, it would be for you because you're a South dad.
I don't even know if I really pay attention to it, but that's good. All right. Thank you very much, folks.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Good night,
Adjourned.
everyone.
Have a good evening.
Have a good one, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Be careful in the snow.
Thank you.
Oh, you take-